Thank you and welcome today's session. We are grateful to have you joining us. I'm Caitlin Giles McCormick here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview and on the New Jersey Child Care Facilities Improvement Program Phase 2. And we will be getting into all of the details of that program shortly. The goal of the program is pretty specific, and Alex will go over all of those details. But if you aren't directly eligible, please keep in mind your partners as we go through the session today. Now, to get us started with the content of today's presentation, I'm going to send things over to Alex Hemmel. Alex, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time after what I know is a very long day of caring for kids. So thanks so much for being here. The agenda for today is a few things. We're going to go through some housekeeping and reminders, a little background on the program. We're going to talk a lot about applicant eligibility. We're going to talk about eligible purchases. We're going to talk about the process of Phase 2, and then we'll share a little bit about some planning resources that we've created and will make available to you all. So, housekeeping and reminders. As Caitlin mentioned, we're going to be using the Q&A feature on Zoom. It looks like what you see on the screen. You'll be able to type in your question, and then we do have other members of our team who will be answering questions as much as we can in real time, and we'll get to as many of those questions as we can. Keep in mind, we do already have a frequently asked questions document posted on our website, and any questions that we don't answer tonight, we will be updating that FAQ with those answers. So rest assured, we will answer all of your questions at some point, if not tonight. So in addition to today's webinar, there are lots of ways to ask questions following tonight's presentation. We recommend that you go look at our webpage on the EDA website. We also have a customer care team who is available to ask lots of questions. You can email them at this email address. You can call them at the 800 number, and then we also have a chat feature. So all of those are options for you to ask questions following tonight's presentation. And as Caitlin mentioned, we'll be posting this PowerPoint presentation and the recording on this website that's listed here on this slide. This is the website. It's a screenshot of the website. We have currently posted, we have frequently asked questions. We have a checklist that you can use to help prepare materials in anticipation of us opening the application sometime during the summer. And then, as we said, this webinar will be posted. There are also some resources around Grow NJ Kids that are also posted on the website. Our plan is to update this website regularly, so don't come back once and then leave us. Come back more than that to see what new resources may be available to you. Okay, we're going to dig real deep into eligibility criteria, but to get us started, we wanted to highlight what we're calling some key eligibility criteria. So number one, applicants must be a family or child care home registered with the Department of Children and Families. If you are not registered and you don't hold that certificate of registration, you unfortunately will not be eligible for this grant. The second criteria is that you must offer care full-time for children. And our definition of full-time is that you are caring for kids at least 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 10 months a year. And the following key eligibility criteria is that applicants must either currently enroll or have enrolled in the past 12 months at least one child receiving assistance from the Child Care Assistance Program, also known as CCAP, and that must be at time of application. We'll dig into this a little bit more, but wanted to put this up front so that everyone's super clear on these key eligibility requirements. Okay, now we're going to jump a little bit into the background of this program. So we recognize that NJEDA is probably very unfamiliar to a lot of childcare providers. And that's primarily because childcare is a relatively new piece of the EDA's portfolio. So prior to COVID, the EDA was not doing any work with childcare providers. But as we all recognized at the peak of the pandemic and throughout the pandemic, that childcare was an essential economic driver and part of the economic infrastructure here in New Jersey. So the EDA works with a lot of different industries, including childcare, and we're helping to move forward the governor's vision of building a stronger and fairer economy for the state of New Jersey. So the EDA's programs, the facility improvement programs, are just one part of Governor Murphy's administration's efforts to strengthen the childcare sector. Some of you may be familiar with initiatives that come out of the Department of Human Services, like the Thriving by 3 grants. You may be familiar with some of the work that's happening around pre-K expansion. And then the EDA's role in helping to strengthen the sector is around phase 1 and phase 2 of the facilities improvement grants. So phase 1 applications have already opened and closed, and we are processing those applications as we speak. And we are preparing to launch phase 2, which is why you guys are all here today, in the summer. And so thank you again for being here and learning more about this upcoming opportunity. Okay, so what is the Child Care Facilities Improvement Program? So it's a $5 million program funded with state funds and with money allocated by the governor and the state legislature. The idea with this program is that we are helping to raise the quality of early learning environments across New Jersey, and recognizing that New Jersey has a mixed delivery system, and there are many children and lots of infants and toddlers enrolled in family childcare homes. We are now ready to launch phase 2. And as I mentioned earlier, this is open only to registered family childcare homes. The grants will be between $10,000 and $20,000 and are intended for prospective costs for facility improvement projects. 40% of the $5 million is going to be set aside for applicants who are located in Opportunity Zone eligible census tracts. There's nothing that you need to do to identify yourself as a provider that is in one of these areas. That's an analysis that the EDA will do once your application is submitted. But the idea here is that we're setting aside funding for communities and neighborhoods who have historically been underserved in terms of funding, and in many ways have the greatest needs. So this is a way for us to address those gaps in funding in those areas. There's no fee or cost to apply for this application, and this is a grant, so the funds do not need to be repaid. A few more areas in terms of applicant eligibility I'd like to talk to you about. Again, we're looking at providers who offer full-time care, are registered with DCF, and meet this eligibility criteria around enrolling or have enrolled in the 12 months prior to submitting your application, at least one child who receives assistance through the CCAP program. Once awarded, childcare providers are going to be asked to commit to maintaining their registration with DCF for 2 years following executing your grant agreement with us. We're also going to be checking that applicants are in good standing with some of our sister agencies, including the Department of Labor and Workforce, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Department of Treasury, specifically the Division of Taxation. And FCCs are limited to 1 application per site. In terms of criteria that would make applicants ineligible, anyone who is not registered with DCF, childcare centers are not eligible for this program. They were eligible for phase 1. They are not eligible for phase 2. Anyone who offers part-time care, a provider who is eligible to enroll a child in CCAP, but don't currently have anyone enrolled or haven't had anyone enrolled in the 12 months prior to submitting your application. So in other words, you can't just accept children on CCAP, you actually have to have had them enrolled. If you're an employee of the state of New Jersey, you're not eligible for this program. And if you've applied for or received a cannabis-related license, you are also not eligible for this program. So we know that the CCAP program is often referred to in a variety of different ways. So just to make sure everyone's clear about what program we're talking about, you would be under a contract with the Department of Human Services, DHS, through the your local R&R, in many R&Rs refer to their program as New Jersey Cares for Kids. So if you're receiving any kind of funding for New Jersey Care Kids, or you know that you have children that are receiving assistance through this program, you meet a really important eligibility criteria, and that's fantastic. If you're not participating in this program and you're interested in the opportunity for this grant, you can contact your local R&R and see about enrolling in the program and then enrolling a child prior to us opening applications sometime in the summer. So you're very welcome to do that. There's also a requirement once you've been approved for an application that childcare providers are participating and enrolling in a program called Grow NJ Kids. Some of you might be familiar with this program. It is New Jersey's quality rating and improvement system. A quality rating and improvement system, also known as a QRIS, is something that is available in all 50 states across the country. And it's a way for us to communicate not only to childcare providers, but to families and the greater public. What does quality look like in early learning programs? Participation in this program comes with a lot of really incredible benefits, including participation in coaching sessions and technical assistance sessions. There are a wide variety of financial supports in terms of stipends, free trainings, help to further your degree if that's something that's you or your staff are interested in. I think the last thing that we'd like to say here is participation in this program is helping to further professionalize the early childhood field. And it would give you an opportunity to market yourself to families and show your commitment to creating high quality learning environments. And you could talk about, you know, the things that you are doing to improve quality, to further your education, the education of your staff. And it just is going to help continue to uplift this sector and help the greater public see those of us who work in the early childhood field as experts, as professionals, and an industry that plays such a vital role in our economy, in our society. And so I would highly encourage everybody to spend some time looking at some of the materials that we have posted on our website around Grow NJ Kids, because it is a requirement as part of this program that once you are approved, you must, if you're not already participating in Grow NJ Kids, you have a year after executing your grant agreement with us to enroll in the program. And the expectation is that you're not only enrolling in the program, but you're participating and getting actively involved in all of the initiatives that they have available and be able to take advantage of all the benefits that I just spoke about. If you have any questions specifically about Grow NJ Kids, we encourage you to visit their website or to email them at this email address here on this slide. The other eligibility requirement we want to spend a little bit of time talking about is becoming a registered business here in New Jersey. We know that there are many registered family childcare homes who are not currently a registered business in New Jersey. In order to be eligible for this program and to be approved for this program, childcare providers are going to have to become registered businesses and submit to us a tax clearance certificate and their formation documents prior to us being able to approve them. In order to receive your tax clearance certificate, you have to be a registered business and you need to hold a New Jersey tax ID number. If you're not already registered as a business, we highly encourage you to begin doing this process now, because it could take a couple weeks. And we don't want folks to miss out on this opportunity or have their approvals be delayed because they're still waiting on some of this paperwork. So ideally, what we would love to see is when applicants are submitting their applications, they are providing this tax clearance and business formation documents to us at the time that they're submitting their application. It will just move the process through much faster and we'll be able to approve you much faster. We are working on some webinars for anyone who's not a registered business to participate, learn more about what does this process look like, what do you need to know, answer any questions you have about this process. So please stay tuned. As soon as we have those dates and times identified, we will be sure to share them out publicly, and so folks can participate. All right, we'd like to now move on to eligible purchases and talk about what you can purchase. So the grants between $10,000 and $20,000 will be for furniture, fixtures, or equipment, or sometimes we refer to it as FFE. So what is FFE? These are items that if you remove them from your programs, they wouldn't damage the permanent structure and fixtures of a building. We often talk to folks that if you turned your home upside down and shook it, anything that sort of fell, that would be considered an FFE in a lot of cases. FFE has to be used for business purposes, and it has to have a lifespan of at least 3 years or more. So some examples of common FFE: chairs, desks, tables, furniture. Things that would not be considered FFE is anything consumable. So by consumable, we're talking about things that you're using with the kids: art supplies, paper, paint, diapers, things of that nature that would not have a lifespan of 3 years. It would also not include things like windows and flooring, wall coverings, plumbing fixtures, or built-in furniture like cabinets and things of that nature. So the purchase requirements for phase 2 is between $10,000 and $20,000. So you'll be thinking about the kinds of improvements that you want to make, the FFP purchases that you want to make, and as you compile that list and those costs, they need to be within the range of $10,000 to $20,000. These are for prospective costs only. So these are things that would be purchased after approval and after your grant agreement is signed. So if you've already purchased something and you're hoping that you might be able to cover the cost of something that you bought last week or last month, unfortunately, that will not be an eligible use. So these are things that you would be purchasing in the future. They must be used for the space in your home in which you're caring for children and for childcare purposes. The items also need to fall into one of 2 categories. They have to support health, safety, and accessibility, or the quality of the childcare environment. So to give you some examples of what may fall into those 2 categories, let's start with health, safety, and accessibility. In terms of what would be eligible in this category, think about some things that you see on this slide: smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, child-proofing like gates, electrical plug covers, any other kind of safety barriers for stairs, replacing any child-sized furniture that you're using to care for kids, cubbies, things of that nature. Or you might want to think about replacing appliances where you're storing the children's food or their bottles, or you're prepping lunches and things like that for them, bottle warmers, things along those lines. In terms of quality of care, the quality of the environment, excuse me, you may want to put in or replace a diaper changing table. You may want to purchase new cots or cribs for the kids sleeping, shelving to store the children's materials, rugs, pillows, beanbag chairs, playground equipment, but some of the playground equipment, it would be dependent on cost and installation, which we'll talk about in a few slides. In the quality of care environment, we would also include things like books and manipulatives and gross motor materials, musical instruments, things of that nature. You can propose other uses that fall into these two categories, so it's not limited to just these bulleted items. I want to be really clear about that. If it falls into health, safety, and accessibility, or the quality of the childcare environment, you can propose it. We will be reviewing all items, and some may be approved, and some we may go back to you and say that it's an ineligible item, and perhaps you want to replace it with something else that is eligible. So in terms of ineligible purchases, so applications submitted for less than $10,000 or more than $20,000 is not allowed. We will come back to you and ask you to either make some revisions or make some decisions about whether you want to keep moving forward with your application if they fall below or above this range. As I mentioned, any purchases that are made before signing the grant agreement will not be eligible for this program. And if the items are not used for the care of children, those will not be deemed as eligible. Again, consumable items are ineligible. And anything involving repairs, renovations, or construction will also be deemed as ineligible. If any of these things are included in a quote, you'll be asked to submit a new quote without that item. Some more information about ineligible items as it relates to things that may need installation. So items that are installed by or would require a construction professional or a professional trade worker like a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician or a painter, unfortunately would not be eligible. If the installation and the item that's being installed is more than $2,000. The reason here is that if items and the installation are more than $2,000, it triggers something called prevailing wage, which is a construction term, and it brings on a whole set of additional requirements for the contractor and for the project that are just too daunting as a part of this program. And trust us, we've gone through all of this in phase one. It's incredibly tedious, and we wanted to create a program for you all that met your needs, but didn't come with a lot of like really strict requirements. So please trust us, you do not want to gravitate into this area. So I just want to take a few minutes going through these scenarios to make sure that we're really clear about what would be an eligible purchase and what would be an ineligible purchase as it relates to installation. So if you have a new appliance that's just being moved into place and plugged in, that's great. I actually had a new washing machine delivered today. The guys came, they took the old one out, they did their magic, they hooked up the new washing machine, and they were on their way. That would be an eligible purchase. If the purchase of a washing machine included having to put in new plumbing of some nature, and those costs plus the new washing machine was above $2,000, then that triggers that prevailing wage issue, and it would not be eligible for this program. However, if you needed some work from a plumber, and for instance, the appliance cost $1,000 and the installation cost $600, that would be a total cost of $1,600. Because that's under $2,000, it would be eligible. Oh, I'm hoping this is making sense for everyone. So another example, an outdoor play set that you purchase and you can just put it in your backyard and it doesn't require any installation, great, eligible. Maybe it does need some minor installation, and you need to level the ground at, like in this example here, and pour some concrete. And if the cost of the outdoor play set with the installation in this example comes out to $1,750, that's under $2,000, that's eligible. Now, if that same play set requires installation that pushes the total cost over $2,000, like in the example here, where it goes up to $2,300, then that would not be eligible. The last example is a bookcase that you or someone in your family might anchor to the wall. Great, eligible, no problem. You might buy that same bookcase and you do have a carpenter who installs it and it costs less than $2,000. Great, eligible. Same bookcase and the cost for installation goes up and pushes you to $2,000 or above, ineligible. Now granted, when you're submitting these costs to us and you are submitting quotes for the installation, quotes are estimated amounts of money, which sometimes can look really different to actual costs. So we may approve something based on the quote that you submitted. However, once you actually get the work done, and it may push your costs over $2,000, then that item and the installation would automatically become ineligible. And you, as the provider, would be responsible for the full cost. So as you're thinking about the items that you're purchasing, and if they require installation, think really carefully about those quotes that you're submitting and how close you're eking up to that $2,000. We would encourage you to think about putting a cushion in place in order to not potentially put yourself in a situation where you're suddenly now responsible for the full cost of the item and the installation because it's gone up above $2,000. In terms of the the quotes that you're going to be submitting to us for both the FFE and the any installation, that is going to be a requirement with your application. Again, don't purchase any items before signing your grant agreement. The grant amount that you're going to be approved for is going to be based on the quotes that you've submitted to us. And once you've been approved, we cannot increase your grant amount. So you're going to want to make sure your quotes are inclusive of everything that you want to be covered under this grant, including taxes, shipping and delivery, and any additional fees that vendors like to charge us these days. The quotes do need to be itemized, so we need to see like the per item cost, the taxes, the shipping, all sort of broken out for us, so that we can see that everything's been included. And that we understand what it is that you're wanting to purchase. So we have a couple examples to show you of what we would like the quotes to look like. So this is an example. Someone filled their online shopping cart with a bunch of materials. And you can see they've also included the subtotal, any discounts, shipping, taxes, and what the full amount of this quote would be. This is exactly the way that we would love to see all of your submitted quotes. It's really clear. We know exactly what the items are. We can check them for eligibility, and we can make sure that all of the costs have been accounted for. These are not the best examples. So you'll see in the example on the left, it's a picture of someone's computer screen of one item. We have an idea that they want two, but we have no idea how much it is per unit. We have no idea how much the tax and shipping is. This would not be helpful to anybody. This is not the version of something we would like to see submitted. The quote on the right does show us that the applicant already paid for this item. So we will be looking at the dates if they are here, and we see that it's been paid. So that would not be an eligible item because this grant is for prospective future costs. So this would not be deemed as an eligible FFE. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to help you understand a little bit of the process. So before you apply, we're encouraging you to start gathering the documents that you're going to need for your application. If you work on getting those prepared now, thinking about the FFE that you want to purchase, making sure that your quotes are in good shape, getting your registration, FCC registration in a PDF for us, your formation documents, your business registration, your tax clearance. These are all the things that you can file away on your computer and have ready for when we launch the application in the summertime. We also have a checklist on our website to help you keep track of all of these documents, and I'll show you where to find those at a later date. But we highly, highly encourage you to start preparing these materials now. During the review process, EDA staff are going to reach out to you once they've done a review of your application for completeness. And they may request missing information, they may ask you questions, they may need some clarification based on what you submitted to us. The quicker you respond to your grant processors with those updates and the documents, then the quicker we can move your application through the process and on to the next step. We also ask that if we've requested multiple documents from you, that you gather them all together and send them in one email to your grant processor. Again, it just speeds along the process and makes it much easier for us rather than looking at, multiple emails for multiple documents. We also want to make sure that everyone understands that once a grant processor asks you for these new documents, you have 10 business days to respond. If you don't respond, your application will be considered incomplete and we will need to withdraw it or decline it. Once we've confirmed that you as the applicant is eligible and all of your required documents are eligible, your quotes are eligible, you will be sent an approval letter via email. You have 7 days to either accept or decline that approval letter. And then after you sign the approval letter, our closing team will then prepare a grant agreement that they will email to you. You will need to sign the grant agreement. You will return it to the EDA. The EDA will sign the grant agreement. And at that point, that's when your grant agreement is considered fully executed. In that process, you will also be asked to provide your banking information so that you'll be able to receive the initial disbursement of money to begin purchasing your materials. The initial disbursement will be 50% of your grant amount, and it will be sent directly to your bank account. After you sign your grant agreement and we release the funds, you're going to have 3 months from the time that we send you the funding to return and submit receipts to the EDA for the FFE that you've purchased. The receipts that you submit must add up to at least 50% of your grant amount in order to show us that you've spent the whole first half of your grant funding. We are going to review the receipts and may request more information if needed. And once those receipts are approved, then we will release the remaining 50% of your grant into your bank account. And then again, you will have another 3 months from the time we disperse the funds to purchase your FFE materials and submit those receipts to us. And the receipts have to add up to the remainder of your grant amount. There's a lot of information that we will share with providers once they're approved on how to submit receipts and the process in which that's going to look like, but that's for a later date. So just want to give you a couple examples so that you understand how the funding is going to be dispersed. So in this example, Alex's Angels is approved for a $20,000 grant. The EDA sends Alex's Angels her first $10,000. The 3 months go by. Alex doesn't submit any receipts. Then the child care provider will be in default of their grant agreement. They will not receive their second disbursement. and they will be disqualified from future EDA funding. Same scenario, Alex's Angels gets $20,000, she gets the first $10,000. She submits receipts that are less than $10,000. So EDA staff will be asked to submit additional receipts so that they total the $10,000. If Alex can't account for the unspent funds from that first $10,000 and doesn't submit any additional receipts, then once again, that provider is going to be in default of their grant agreement. There will be no second disbursement, and they will not be eligible for future EDA funding. If, however, Alex goes back, does some more purchasing, submits those, and submits the receipts, excuse me, then everything's good. We will do a review of those receipts, and the second disbursement will be sent out. The second $10,000 will be sent out. And then, of course, the scenario that we're expecting everybody to fall under is after Alex gets her $10,000, she submits receipts that total at least $10,000 of eligible purchases, and then we will release the second $10,000. So a few additional compliance requirements post approval, which we've talked about, but we want to make sure that we're super clear about here. So if you are approved and you sign a grant agreement, there is this requirement that you enroll in Grow NJKids, that quality rating and improvement system, within a year of signing your grant agreement. The other requirement is that you remain registered as an FCC and are caring for kids for 2 years after signing your grant agreement. If you're unable to meet these requirements, you may have to pay back a portion of your grant. Okay, this last part, we just want to talk to you about some of the resources that are available to you to answer any questions that you might have. We do have this frequently asked questions already posted on our website. As we mentioned, following today's session, and we have a second session tomorrow, we'll be reviewing all of the questions that you've submitted. We'll be updating the FAQs, answering any questions we were unable to get to during these 2 sessions, and we will make that available on our website as soon as we can. We expect to update the FAQs a few times, so please go back to our website regularly, look at the FAQs, and see if you have the most recent version to make sure that you have the best information available to you. As we mentioned at the top of the webinar, we encourage folks following today's session to contact our customer care team. They'll be able to answer your questions, anything that comes up for you. You can contact them via email. You're welcome to call them at this number, or you can use the chat feature, which you can find on the EDA's website. As I mentioned, we are planning to hold some webinars about becoming a registered business. As soon as that information has been confirmed, we will be sure that you all get that communication and are able to sign up so you can learn more about that process and get it going, so that you have it in place and ready to go once we launch our application. I know that lots of questions are being answered. We really want to thank everybody for their time tonight. I just want to say personally, I've worked in the early childhood field my entire career. I was a toddler teacher and a preschool teacher and a center director. I now have a 5-year-old who spent the first 2 years at a family childcare provider, meeting the needs of family childcare providers is personally important to me. It's something that the whole childcare team believes in. The governor and his administration believes in supporting a mixed delivery system, and we couldn't be happier to be able to offer this opportunity to you all, and are looking forward to working with you all through this application process and the grant itself. So thank you so much and have a lovely evening.